Hello and welcome to Odds on Serie A Matchday 36, and we have Dani Fisichella smiling, happy as ever. Dani, congratulations! Inter is going to Istanbul.
The day after, the night before, Inter, best team in the two legs for sure. 2 clean sheets, 3-0 on aggregate. They deserve to go there, of course. And it's the sixth final in their history, 13 years after the triumph in Madrid. Let's see who they are going to face, Manchester City or Real Madrid. I got the feelings Italian fans, Inter fans want to face Manchester City. They don't trust Real Madrid. They don't trust Carlo Ancelotti. On the other hand, Milan, very poor in both legs. He shows how difficult it was for Milan this season. Recruitment, really, they haven't added much to the squad. And yes, now they need to fight to get to the Champions League. They are -4 on Lazio, and this is a crucial match day, of course, for Milan if they want to get into the top four.
Actually, Dani, we have to talk a lot about Milan and the image we saw with Pioli and the players asking almost for forgiveness to the supporters after the defeat in Spezia. So a lot to talk about in the Italian football. Guys, remember to leave your comments, of course, telling us your tips. And don't forget, press the like and subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. And remember, only 3 games left in Serie A, and this match day starts on Friday. We have Sassuolo, Monza, absolutely nothing to play for in this game. So perhaps in these games where there is nothing to play for, usually, Dani, we see goals, and we know that Sassuolo is entertaining, but they are not getting great results lately. Only 1 victory in the last 5 games. On the other hand, we have Monza. What a season. We've been saying this throughout the year, but only 1 defeat in the last 11 games, even beating the champions, Napoli.
Yes, and doing really well. Taking the chances. They looked fresher. They looked sharper, really. No, Monza are 9th at the moment in the table. And if Juventus gets deducted more than 10 points, let's say, and Monza wins the next 3, they could overcome Fiorentina, finish 8, which then could mean 7, and they could be in the Conference League next season. So basically, Berlusconi and Galliani plan to get into Europe. That will be 1 year earlier than what expected. But Monza is a good side. They got really skillful players, especially midfield, and a lot of experience here. Sassuolo, I think they did well against Inter. They score 2 goals. They managed to get the game back to 3-2. I thought it was potentially very dangerous for Inter that game, but they showed, the consistency, the strength, of course, and the depth in the squad. But Sassuolo held their own, I must say. I think from now on, all the Sassuolo games are going to be possibly over 2.5 goals. I think they're gonna be goals in these ones. It's very difficult to commit for one full-time result. I'm gonna go for over 1 goal in the first half, which pays 182. So again, a bit of a caveat there. If there's only 1 goal in the first half, you get your money back. But I would expect, yes, both to score and perhaps an over 2.5 goals.
Well, not a lot on stake in this game. Next one is Cremonese Bologna. Perhaps this is the weekend when Cremonese goes down. Still some hope, but they are 6 points away from salvation after the defeat against Juve. This one, they could get the 3 points, Dani. Bologna, their season is over. No victories in the last 6. It's true that they held Roma with a draw. But the odds to back somehow Cremonese are not bad.
No, not bad, because I think Cremonese has shown that they are going down, but with a lot of dignity, with a lot of good intentions, really. And yes, of course, they look doomed from pretty much after 5 or 6 games in. Then they got Ballardini, collected a couple of wins, some famous wins, of course, against Roma in the league, plus a good Coppa Italia run. They got them to the semi-final. But against Juventus, they really show they sometimes against top teams they don't have the firepower to hurt them unless they do go on the breaks. Yes, they are 6 points behind Spezia and Verona. If they lose and the other 2 pick up a point, they are mathematically out. But in the last 6 games of Cremonese, 5 of them have all been under, so very low scoring games. They tend not to concede many goals. And when it comes to Bologna, the away form for them is not great, but at home they've been really, really solid against the likes of Juventus, Inter, Milan, Lazio. Of course, if you look at the away result for Bologna, draw at Sassuolo, lost at Empoli, lost at Verona, won against Atalanta in Bergamo, and previously there was a 2-2 against Salernitana. So the pattern normally is that Bologna scores a goal or two, often concede a goal as well. But for this one, I'm going to go a little bit against this logic, and I'm going to go for under 2.5 goals, 187. I think both have got troubles scoring lately, and Bologna away from home doesn't quite convince me at all.
Well, first half draw for James in this Cremonese Bologna could be. Good morning to Ahmed and to Armin. Let's jump into the next game. This one is very important one. Atalanta, Verona, both coming from defeats. The Verona one, shocking, I would say, at home against Torino, because they missed a huge chance to stay up, and now they have the same points as Spezia. The next game is Empoli at home. This one is a key one. And the game in Bergamo, Danny, we can see that Atalanta, they are really favorites after the defeats against Salernitana and Juve. If they want to play Europa League, they have to win this one.
Strange pattern, the one of Atalanta, because they won 3 games in a row and then they lost the last 2. And the one at Salerno, really underwhelming against a team that was basically saved. They couldn't even score a goal. Atalanta have conceded at home in all the last 3 home games. So there is always the issue when they play at home, when they are considered as slightly favorite, taking the game into the opposition. Sometimes they do leave some gaps, and they're going to find a very physical side in Verona, sturdy, a team that doesn't concede many goals. Look at the recent result: 1-0 win at Lecce, 1-0 defeat against Torino, then there was 1-1 against Cremonese away, drew against Napoli away, 0-0, lost only 1-0 against Juventus away. Of course, there was the 6-0 thumping at home against Inter, but this is a side that doesn't concede many goals lately, and I think they do have goal scorers in them now that Ngonja is back, Juric is back, Verdi has scored 3 or 4 goals in the last 5 weeks. So they got, I think, enough to stay up. Look, for me, between Verona and Spezia are the favorite to go down. I see Verona stronger and more compact. The fixture list, if you look at Verona, Spezia, I think Verona got the worst because got Atalanta away, Empoli at home, and Milan away. Spezia got, of course, the game against Lecce this weekend, but they got easier fixtures. But I think Verona, I got a little bit more in the tank, I believe. I'm going to go for both to score here. I think could be a surprise. There could be a double chance. You might want to even check the handicap Verona +1. I'm going to go both to score 196.
Be careful with this one. We were checking the head-to-head, and Verona won last season in Bergamo. Atalanta won at the Bentegodi this season, and the odds for Atalanta to win are very low, actually 1.6. That's why Danny is pointing you out the good odds to back Verona somehow. And also on Saturday evening, Danny, we have a very sad game. Milan Sampdoria in San Siro. Sad because Milan, they are in turmoil. The image that we saw last weekend in Spezia with Pioli, with the players going to the Tifoseria to ask for forgiveness, it looks like an image from the old times. Very sad, in my opinion. And of course, even sadder, the last games of Sampdoria in Serie A.
Yes, the last game in Sampdoria in Serie A, they are relegated only for the third time since 1980, 1981. So that tells you they are what they represent in Italian football, but a very difficult situation for Sampdoria on the pitch, off the pitch, with turmoils, with the club that is on sale, etc. But Milan, they showed all the limits, I think, against Inter. They showed in both legs the limits in terms of defensive issues that they had at the beginning of the season. A bit of lack of concentration, lapses of concentration, lapses of good patterns of play. The fact they didn't play with Leao in the first leg, of course, affected. I mean, the second leg, Leao was not fully fit you could tell he never managed to kick on. And also Theo Hernandez, I think, is suffering for bad form recently. But this is a bit inexplicable because the game before the first leg of the game against Inter was against Lazio when Milan showed a lot of good stuff and good team spirit and didn't concede even a single shot on target to Lazio. Now the defeat against Spezia, where they looked really flat, they look like they thought they were gonna win it easily, and yeah, it's not the case. I mean, Pioli knows he cannot count on his second string players apart from Pobega every now and then. The other ones have basically given him nothing. But now he's gonna play the big guns every single game. The last 3 games for Milan are really, really important. You go Sampdoria at home, and then Juventus away, and finishes with Verona at home. I think Milan needs at least 7 points to be able to catch Lazio, who are 4 points ahead. So this is a must-win game. All the last 11 games from Milan have been under 2.5 goals. They have really struggled to score goals, haven't scored in the last 3. Now, I think they're going to win this one, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Under 3 goals here, 191. So Milan wins 1-0, 2-0. You do win 191. They win in a 3 goals game. You get your money back.
Well, how the situation changed for the Rossoneri. Last season they were winning the Scudetto. They were just 2-3 weeks ago in the semifinals of the Champions League, still second, third in Serie A, and right now it looks like they are not going to play Champions League next season, and the atmosphere is really bad around the team. Hello to Corello, Ashley from Hawaii, from South Africa. All around the world enjoying this Serie A that has a key game for the relegation battle this weekend on Sunday morning, Danny, or afternoon at midday. Lecce, Spezia, both teams right now out of the relegation spots, but still Lecce in danger, 2 points away from Spezia and Verona. Spezia, as we mentioned, they were able to break their bad record, beating Milan. And Lecce, Danny, they got a key point. No one expected that at the Olimpico against Lazio, but that defeat against Verona in the last home game put them in trouble.
Yeah, it dented a little bit the good work that they did because they beat Udinese at the end of April at home. And then, yes, the defeat against Verona when they were really bad. I mean, they didn't create many chances. But now this great point against Lazio totally deserved with 2 goals from Odan. And, Lecce, out of a sudden, they found a goal scorer, a very unlikely goal scorer, and they managed to get themselves out of a difficult situation. Of course, they still got those 2 points caution on Spezia and Verona, and obviously this is the game of the season for Lecce. Now, Lecce doesn't need necessarily to win this one because I mean, obviously, a point will keep Spezia away from them, but also they got a very easy calendar. They go to Monza the next game, and then they host Bologna in the last game of the season. So even with 2-3 points overall after the 3 in these games, they will probably be okay. When it comes to Spezia, you can tell when they played against Milan that they wanted it more. They had more in it, and they were more motivated. A very good performance from Semplici men who can create chances. They got goal scorers, some very interesting young players. I think they are the weakest of the 3 sides between Lecce, Verona, and Spezia, of course, but they're going to go and put up a fight there. If you look at Spezia calendar, Lecce away, Torino at home, a team that normally doesn't concede many goals, and the last game is Roma away, potentially with Roma fighting for a Champions League, Europa League spot. So they need to get at least a point here, otherwise they are out of the fight and they'll be relegated. I think it is going to be a draw. I think this is going to be a cagey game, cautious, and because the double chance X2 pays more than 1x, I'm going to go for X2, 180. Now, I'm not suggesting Spezia could win this game, but I think it's going to be a draw, and there are decent odds for an X2.
Okay, draw pays always well, of course, in this kind of 6-pointer for the relegation. Both teams are afraid of losing. Hello, Jama from India. Next game, Danny, nothing to play for. Relax from the tension in Lecce to be relaxed in the Torino Fiorentina. Torino getting better results away than at home. No victories at home in the last 5, but we have Fiorentina getting good results actually in Serie A lately, for instance, beating Udinese, but we have to take in consideration that they will be fully focused on the European semi-finals. That's why Torino, they have to be favorites for this one.
Not only the European semi-finals, the return
And
leg
the
against
final.
Basel, but next Wednesday, there is the Coppa Italia final in Roma, Inter Fiorentina. And this is, whereas Inter obviously are the holders and play last season for Fiorentina, this is a historic date for them. So a lot focus in midweek games. So Fiorentina really could go all the way and reach the Conference League final and play every single game possible this season. Torino, on the other hand, they're coming out very strongly. I think they're ending the season very strongly. Only one defeat in the last 7. Good win at Verona, playing some good stuff. Before the week before, a decent draw against Monza, where also had chances. I feel Torino could finish the season really high, perhaps even getting into the 7th, 8th spot. They are on 49 points. So the same goes with what we said about Monza before. If they finish 8th and then Juventus gets deducted point, they could be 7th and go into the Conference League. So now Torino, Monza, and Fiorentina got the same points, 49 in the leagues. But I think, of course, Torino will be more motivated. Now, with Torino, the issue is that they don't score many goals. It's a side in Italy that never scored more than 2 goals this season. The player Fiorentina side is going to make a lot of changes. I think eventually this season Torino are going to score more than 2 goals. It could be this game, if you like. Fiorentina, we know they are good away from home. They collected good results, especially in Europe. I think this could be a high-scoring game. Over 2.25 goals, which means if there are only 2 goals in the game, you only lose half a stake. And you can understand that because Torino, being very compact, very stingy, they don't score many goals. That's why the odds are so high for the over 2.25 goals. But I think this is the time maybe Torino score 2 or 3.
Okay, maybe Torino to win also is good, 2.35. Ashley is suggesting Sanabria, anytime goal scorer.
It could be a good one, yes.
Is the top scorer of Torino. And
For
Armin is
11
asking
already.
you, Danny, if Fiorentina can reach the conference final, they can turn around the tie.
Absolutely, they need to turn around a 2-1 defeat, and they can do it. Armin, the last 3 games of Fiorentina in the Conference League away, they've all been 3 victories against like Poznan, against Braga, and I forgot the name of the other team, but they won 3 in a row anyway. And this season, I think they won 5 out of 6 in the Conference League away from home. They do create a lot of chances. They often have the ball. The question in Fiorentina is whether they can convert them. But this is a side that the day everything goes their way, they can score 5 or 6 against you. No problem at all. I think they can reach the final, yes.
Well, let's see. On Thursday, for sure, a team that has reached the final is Inter. Let's talk about this big game. Napoli-Inter, for sure, the 2 most successful teams in Italy this season. We can say that at this stage. Napoli winning the title, of course. Inter reaching the Coppa Italia final, the Champions League final, especially Danny. So I'm sure they will be with big hopes. I'm not sure from a betting point of view if we should bet on this game, because Napoli, since they are champions, they are not winning a lot, and Inter, they still have to qualify for the Champions League, but they will be tired, I guess, from the celebrations from the game in the semi-finals, looking at the final on Wednesday. Tricky one to bet, perhaps going for Napoli, no? I'm surprised to see Inter favorite for this one.
The odds for Napoli to win, I think they are disproportionate. I know they had a dip in form, and in the last 7 games, they never scored more than a goal. And you can tell they took the foot off the gas and they are a little bit tired. But this is a key game because it's the last game for Napoli against a top side in Italy, and they don't want to finish it on a defeat. They were defeated in the first leg, 1-0 goal from Jack on the 4th of January. But on the other hand, you need to consider, yes, they're going to be more rested. It's the last big game at home. Spalletti and his men will obviously put a lot of attention into this game. Now, I disagree with you that when you play midweek and win, you are tired. I think winning helped to win. Otherwise, Barcelona, Inter, they would never won the treble, no? Because that was game after game after game. They would have been tired. So I think winning helps to win. And of course, you rest much better after you won. Yes, Inter needs to do some turnover because now Mission Istanbul has started, so they don't want to pick up any injury. They want to make sure everyone has played the right minutes. But to be fair, the rotations with Inter have worked really well since the beginning of April. They played every 3 days and they work well. Now Inzaghi knows perfectly who needs to come in, who needs to come out. This time we'll play with with Lautaro and Correa, with Gosens instead of Di Marco. I see Ashley suggesting Di Marco 2+ shots. Careful, because I don't think he's going to start this game. He came out slightly limping in the derby. I think he's going to be Gosens. So, careful. But you never know. Yeah, but he's a good shout, actually. It's a good shout, Di Marco to shoot on target. But if he doesn't start, less chances, of course. But when it comes to Inter, yes, they have got a very good unbeaten streak. They haven't lost since that game against Monza on the 15th of April. So obviously, yeah, they are confident and they are up for it. But they don't necessarily mean they need to win because they got +5 points on Milan. Depending on the Milan result, they could also go for a draw here. So maybe it could be a cagey game, but Inter have also taken the chances better this season. But let's not forget, Napoli have been the best team in Italy for large spells. Not everything gets lost in the space of 5 days. I'm going to go for an Asian handicap 0 for Napoli in the first half, 207. So which means if Napoli wins the first half, you win 207, which, I mean, the odds are really good. If he ends in a draw, you get your money back. And I think in this way, you probably cover yourself a little bit.
Great odds indeed to back Napoli. Both teams to score an over 2.5 goals for Benjamin. Ashley is telling us what you mentioned about Di Marco, perhaps not starting for this one. And on the contrary, Danny, with Inter, how the mood changed with Inzaghi being a survivor. He was almost sacked in some games. And somehow the season came better and better and better for Inter. And perhaps they are able to rise 3 titles this season: Supercoppa Italia, Coppa Italia final, and Champions League final. It would be a historical season for Inter, not in Serie A, because as we all know, Napoli have been the best. And Danny, on Sunday we have another game, interesting one, Udinese Lazio, because Lazio for many months or weeks, they were second in the standings, weeks we have to say, and now they are fourth and risking to stay out of the Champions League. 4 points still margin with Milan, but they had a dip in form. Drew with Lecce, only 1 victory in the last 5 games, and this one is a tough one because Udinese, they get good results at home.
Got to win this one. Yes, after that deep in form, 1 win in 5, and they defeat against Torino, against Inter, against Milan. It is a Lazio side that seems a little bit tired, a little bit leggy. And this is strange to explain because the last time they played in Europe, Lazio was in the 16th of March. And after that, they only had the league to play with. So, yeah, somehow that good run was interrupted, and again at the weekend I was pretty sure they were going to bounce back against Lecce. No, they conceded 2 stupid goals and they let the win slip away. Actually, in the end, they managed to recover a point in the last minute thanks to Milinkovic-Savic scoring. They are +4 on Milan, but they have a very favorable calendar. Udinese away, Cremonese at home, Empoli away. Now, because they are +4 and there are 9 points at stake, really, they need to collect 5 points, 6 points, and they are there. So they just need to win 2 out of 3 games, which I think they're all winnable for Lazio. So win at home against Cremonese, win away against Empoli, and they are there. And it will be a great achievement for Lazio to go into Champions League because they are not the 4th best team in Italy in terms of squad and roster. But this is going to be tricky because Udinese, we know at home, they are difficult to beat. They got nothing to play for, but this sometimes could be also an advantage. If you look at the last home games for Udinese, won against Sampdoria 2-0, drew against Napoli 1-1, beat Cremonese, drew against Monza, won against Milan. So, careful there, because really they are in a good run al Friuli. I think this is going to be tricky for Lazio, and I'm going to go for an under 2.5 goals. I don't think Lazio is going to score many goals here. Maybe Udinese can nick one, could finish 1-1. 190, under 2.5 goals.
All right, not many goals, but luckily for Lazio, as you've mentioned, they have an easy schedule until the end of the season. It would be a great season for Sarri's men if they are able to qualify for the Champions League next season. On Monday, we have the two teams involved in the Europa League. Roma Salernitana is the first game. Roma sixth in the standings. They have to win this one if they want to qualify for the Europa League and catch Milan in the table, although, as we all know, their hopes are in the semi-finals in the Europa League with that advantage against Leverkusen. Yes. Danny, I saw the Roma fans very angry at the referee because of that penalty. It was a clear penalty, in my opinion, against Bologna. Everyone, I guess, is very angry at the season they've been having in Italy. They think, or they are buying, Mourinho's speech about not getting what they deserve in Italy.
There is that logic, there is that argument as well. I think Roma have been penalized by some refereeing decisions, but I never put it down just to the referees. Mourinho also believed that they are overachieving, considering the squad they have. And I partially agree with him, because I think they've been really unlucky with injuries. In the last few weeks, they lost Smalling, Kumbulla, El Shaarawy, Wijnaldum, Dybala. We still don't know whether he's fit or not. Now they're getting some players back on form. So really, they had a lot to contend with. And I think the fact that they got to the semi-final of the Europa League, it's commendable. And they were pushing for a top 4 finish. In the last few weeks, the form deserted them. But I think the problem is that when they haven't got Dybala, really, it's very difficult for Roma to score more than a goal. If you look in the last 6 games, they only score a goal or less. So the last time they scored more than 2 goals was that 4-0 win against Feyenoord, when of course Dybala scored. So they become more solid, more hard to break. Their clean sheet against Bologna was the 14th clean sheet of the season for Roma goalkeepers. And now, of course, they're going to play against Bayer Leverkusen away. You can go and check our video on the Europa League prediction, where me, Alvaro, and Ed, of course, dissect the game alongside Sevilla, Juventus. Salernitana, on the other hand, they're saved. Very good season for them. Score more goals than last season. They become they're not mathematically safe, because they got 38 points, so they can still go down. But basically, they are safe. They just need a point. And careful with them, of course, because it is a side that tends to score also away. Don't forget 1-1 against Salernitana, 1 at Lazio, 1-1 against Torino away recently, 1-1 against Milan in Milano. So I think there is a pattern there. I'm going to go for a Salernitana Asian handicap plus 1.25, 187. So if Roma wins by 1 goal margin, you win alpha stake. If they draw, you win. If Salernitana wins, you win.
Be careful indeed with this one. If you are putting Roma, for instance, in your ACCA, Salernitana only 1 defeat. In the last 12 games, they draw a lot. And Roma, as you mentioned, Danny, we were seeing the top scorers for Roma. Tammy Abraham, only 8 goals. El Shaarawy, only 5. Really poor numbers. Poor numbers for a team that want to qualify for the Champions League. Only Dybala is delivering, but he's always having injury issues. And the last game, Empoli-Juve, with Juve also involved in the Europa League, but in the Serie A, they are getting the results. Ugly victories, Juventus style, we can say, but they won the last 3 against Cremonese, Atalanta, Lecce, Empoli. They are safe right now, so perhaps this is another game not to watch and an ugly victory for Juve.
Potentially, Juventus have been able to do the job, especially against struggling teams. This season, I've only dropped 4 points against teams from the 14th position down, and there were 2 draws, one against Sampdoria, one against Salernitana. When in the end they should have won the game, it was the scandal of their bar that didn't have the image of Candreva next to the corner flag. So against the small teams, they've been really consistent. Not spectacular. The first half against Cremonese was dreadful. In the second half, they created more chances. Look, we said with Juventus many times, they're not very beautiful to watch. Sometimes they don't seem to have a pattern of play, but they got a deep squad and they can use also the young players, and they've used them very well. The likes of Fagioli, Ealing, Miretti, Suale, Berrencea. So even if they play in midweek against Sevilla, which I think is going to be a very tough test for them, and I got my doubts. Go and check our analysis on the Europa League video. I think with this one they can negotiate it really, really well. They're going to finish second, I feel, Juventus in the league. Then depends how many points they get deducted. But they got Empoli, then they play Milan at home and Udinese away. I think this could be even 9 points for Juve easily. Empoli saved, got a point. And Marassi equalized in the last minute with Piccoli, and they deserve to be there. They deserve to be saved. It's a side that have played a lot of young players, has given a chance to many young players. Paolo Zanetti, who last season got relegated with Venezia, took on Empoli and did a good job. And it is a side that I think probably in the summer will be slightly dismantled. I would expect the likes of Parisi, Baldanzi, Viviano to go somewhere else. But yes, I think they deserve their place in Serie A. Juventus win, I like it. If you want to squeeze a little bit more value out of it, Asian handicap minus 75 for Juventus, 193. If they win by 1 goal, you win half a stake.
Ashley is also suggesting to spice it up Juve and under 3.5 goals.
Yeah, possibly.
We see usually ugly victories from Juventus. And Danny, what about Pogba? Unlucky Pogba.
Unlucky Pogba. Unfortunately, Juventus had to deal with his many injuries. You had to feel for him. I think it all comes down maybe to the decision in the summer not to go through surgery initially, try to do some rehabilitation. Then they changed their mind. They lost a little bit of time there. There are also muscular issues there. So, Juventus never expected that he was going to turn out this way. Or maybe Manchester United, who sold him, know that he was never going to be the real Pogba. But okay, we wait for him, of course, for next season.
Indeed. Well, Danny, this is it. Only 3 games left in the Serie A. Tell me your safe bet for this weekend.
One of the less interesting game of the weekend, but maybe it's the good one to go. Sassuolo Monza over 1.5 goals, that pays 127.
Okay, you have no plans for Friday, then you can put a bet on this Sassuolo Monza and watch it.
Really
or read a book or go to the cinema or something else, but you can still make money while you are reading your book and betting on goals in this game in the Mapei Stadium. Danny and Yoraka?
Milan to win, Torino Fiorentina double chance 1x, Napoli Inter over 1.5 goals, and Juventus to beat Empoli, total odds 392.
Let's see if we can see the image on the screen. In the meantime, I have to say, Danny, that both Alvaro and you have been goats in your ACCA in the Europa League. You are nailing so
especially the Europa League, not also the other ones, but the Europa League this season is like the one to go.
And it's a very, very difficult competition. Well, we will write down in the comment section your ACCA, Danny, so everyone can go and check it. Thank you, Danny. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Don't forget to press the like and subscribe. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Ciao.